one of the things that I loved the most was the sense of purpose. You knew that every conversation would lead to disease prevention. I think all of that clinical background helped me to understand data in context. So when I look at the numbers, when I look at vaccination rates, prescription rates, there's a person, there's a patient behind the number. It's not just a number that you have seen on the screen. I probably use this word a lot today, but I'll say start with curiosity and not fear. Reinvention is the courage to rewrite your story. No matter your starting point.
All right, welcome everyone to Data and AI Conversations with the DataMind-Mindset. This is the podcast where we explore journeys and practical insights of leaders shaping our data-driven world. And today we have a story that truly embodies the spirit of transformation. Today's episode is titled Power BI to Power Moves with Adesola Fadiora on driving AI in healthcare. We chose this title because it perfectly captures the journey from foundational skills to making a strategic enterprise level impact, a journey our guest knows very intimately. All right. So I'm really honored to introduce our guest today, Adesola Fadiora. Adesola is a trailblazing leader in innovation and digital transformation, and she currently serves as the Associate Director and Innovation and AI lead at the global biopharmaceutical firm Gilead Sciences. She's also a board member of the British Healthcare Business Intelligence Association, where she helps shape the future of healthcare insights in the UK. What makes her story so compelling is that her journey didn't start in a coding class. It started as a trained pharmacist. And on a personal note, I'm true to say that our guest today is also my good friend. Okay, Adesola, welcome to today's podcast. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
All right. Okay, your bio reads like a fantastic masterclass in career in reinvention, from pharmacist to a leader in AI at a global pharmaceutical company. But before we dive into that incredible journey, how are you doing today? And what's one thing outside the world of data and AI that has got you excited right now?
I am doing good. Again, thanks for having me here. I think it's really energizing having conversations like this and, talking about innovation in healthcare. Outside of data, outside of all of that at work, one thing that excites is mentoring young professionals. I've been in those shoes, so I understand what it feels like to build your confidence and clarity in this workspace. And so I'm excited usually when I have the opportunity to mentor young people, probably help them scale the hurdles that I had difficulty scaling.
Fantastic. And truth is that the DataMindMindset, we have a very, very young audience as well. And I'm sure a lot of them will benefit listening to this edition of the podcast and then glean from some of your experience and your wealth of knowledge. Okay, so Adesola, let's start from the beginning. You were a trained pharmacist with over a decade of experience across Nigeria and the Caribbean. Can you take us back to that time? What did a typical day look like for you? And what were the aspects of pharmacy that you were most passionate about?
Yes, I'm a trained pharmacist. However, most of the professional experience as a trained pharmacist was in the commercial side of the industry, meaning working at GSK as a pharmaceutical representative, selling vaccines and specialty care products, and then into marketing as well. So my day was mostly around meeting healthcare professionals, discussing new medicines, working on educational programs, ensuring that our products really met patients and community needs. I think one of the things that I loved the most was the sense of purpose. You knew that every conversation would lead to disease prevention. You knew that every conversation would lead to better health outcomes. And so it was well beyond the sales. It was real world impact, connecting all of that to real world impact. And beyond that, I moved into marketing, which was really the strategy part of everything that was going on the field. before I moved into data analytics. And that's really what all of my work has been centered around, beyond just selling, actually making a real impact.
Interesting. Okay, you know your bio says transitioned into data analytics, but sometimes you know that word, it's too simple for such a profound shift. So there must have been a moment you saw, or a recurring frustration in your work as a pharmacist where you thought there has to be a better way, and I think data is the answer. Can you tell us about that particular time?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, you know the answer already. Yeah, and I think every transition, every transformation starts with that niggling frustration, that desire to drive the change. For me, yes, it was also a growing frustration as a field rep, and also while I sat in the marketing arm in this pharma company as well. I saw how much effort went into engaging our HCPs. We say HCPs, healthcare professionals, but it looked as if the feedback loop was not really at par. There was so much data. There was sales data, there was call reports, there was marketing insights, but was it really being connected to tell a clear story? And I've always had a love for data, for numbers, which is what I'd have called them. Just liked numbers, like to look at what the numbers were saying. And so the question then was, how can we use that data to understand what works and why it works? And I think I like a phrase that said that curiosity became the seed of my transformation. It was like I started from being curious, and that was how that seed was being, grown and germinated into this transformation. And it was clear data analytics really could bridge that gap between effort and impact. And so we can work smarter with analytics. And I think that's what drove me. And that's how I got to where I am now.
Interesting. As someone with an engineering background myself, it's always like, pharmacists, it's not that you crunch numbers. So it's really interesting that you had the love for numbers. But looking back, if you look at your background as a pharmacist, where you know patient needs, treatment pathways, healthcare delivery, you talked about vaccines during your time in Nigeria when you also moved into sales. Okay, and do you feel like did it feel like a superpower or a hurdle when given that when you first entered the unique world of data, given your background?
Superpower is the word, actually. I think all of that clinical background helped me to understand data in context. So when I look at the numbers, when I look at vaccination rates, prescription rates, there's a person, there's a patient behind the number. It's not just a number that you have seen on the screen. You can visualize the patient journey. You can pick out the challenges the doctor is even facing. You can pick out the barriers to access to medicines just by looking at, interpreting, understanding the data properly. I think that superpower helps me move beyond spreadsheets to insights. So it's beyond building beautiful dashboards, but what does it mean?
Honestly, I picked something from there. There's a patient behind the number. It's so interesting that, sometimes when you're doing analysis, a lot of us just tend to just put the data there. But I love that aspect of you humanizing, because that just gets you involved, it gets you invested. So imagine if you're doing the analysis, you know that, if you say 10 patients are suffering from this particular disease, they need that. You are humanizing it. You're putting a lot of more context into it. I think that's very, very profound. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, so I'll move it on now. You've worked in multiple healthcare systems in Nigeria, the Caribbean, and now in the UK. How did that international experience shape your understanding of the universal challenges in healthcare that data and AI could potentially solve?
Yeah, really, really great question. Thank you. I think first it had helped me have very deep respect for diversity. It's different everywhere. There's different health challenges. The health challenges are universal, and everyone is facing one form of health challenge or the other. But one thing I learned was that the solution has to be local. One size does not fit all in terms of healthcare challenges. even in terms of how analytics can solve the problem. That one size does not fit all. And that's why where I think AI comes in, because there's that additional perspective into what we're doing. It can help you to bring forward different perspectives, what's going on right now, what could happen in the future, predictive, prescriptive, help you bring it all together, and then you can come up with much more relevant solutions to the challenges that are currently facing.
Interesting. I was speaking to somebody a couple of days back. I think one of the questions that was thrown at me was around the fact that, the person is actually in the US and was talking about clinical research. I remember now, it was just on Friday. And, how does that fit into, I think the guy was trying to figure out how data fits into his own role. And I sort of like said something along the line of what you said, that it cascades across whatever industry that you are in, as far as you're able to connect that domain experience that you have within yours. There's a data, how I call it, there's a solution data can provide there. Okay, thank you. Now I want to move on to another question, Adesola. Once you identify data as your new path, there was a significant decision that you made. You went to pursue a master's degree in data science. What was the thought process behind that? Okay, why another formal degree? You're already a trained pharmacist. You're already even experienced, and you had the competency to use data tools. Okay, why a formal degree? Why not self-study or boot camps? What were you hoping to gain from that deep foundational approach of going for a master's degree?
To be honest, I started off with the smaller courses, just to see if that was really, really what I wanted. But at the time when I decided to go to do the master's in data sciences, it was well beyond, just transition. I realized it was a transformation. It was,
wow.
Now get to understand those foundational parts of the science behind the analytics. Why are we doing what we are doing? I wanted to be able to speak credibly on analytics as I speak credibly in the pharmacy world. And, I didn't want to be a local champion, just to be analytics in pharma industry. I want to be able to attend meetings outside of my industry and be able to speak credibly as well. And that's really what the master's degree, meeting other people within the same field, has also afforded me to do. Gratefully, it was flexible. It was part-time. I could do it alongside my work. It was stretching as well, but it also gave me the discipline that I needed. I think my project was on predictive modeling for disease outbreaks.
Nice.
I remember when I told my instructor, my supervisor, that's what I wanted to do. He actually said he hadn't seen anyone want to do something that complex. And I said yes, but I wanted to give it a shot because that's the way I can merge who I am with what I really want to do. And so it was interesting. And when I say interesting, I mean very challenging to get that done.
I can imagine.
Yeah, but it was rewarding as well.
Wow. I love that you saying you want to just get to the science. And I think that's one thing I would love a lot of our listeners to get, that when you go for such degrees, they should probably solidify something that you already have. It shouldn't be on the surface level, which I hear from your response there. Thank you. All right. So let's even just move on now. After you got the degree, how did you land that's your first role? Yes, I know you've been in the UK okay. What were some of the first data projects that you worked on, either maybe in the course of when you were going for your master's or maybe after? And how do you start demonstrating the value and building credibility? Because you had been in the domain, but now you had done work in Nigeria, the Caribbean, you found yourself in the UK, you've done the masters. Okay, how did you build that credibility, especially given your background? Your core background is in business intelligence and analytics, but now you've done a master's in data science, you've shifted into AI. How did you not start start to build some of that and demonstrate some of that credibility with the new domain and the new skills that you had?
I think so. First, I had been working on a couple of business intelligence projects before I even completed the master's. However, it looked like, what's that phrase, where opportunity meets preparation. So while doing the BI projects and also communicating that I was pursuing a master's in data sciences, everything locked in at a point where there was a new role on AI and innovation that was required in the office, and I was a natural fit into that role.
Wow.
However, before then, it was a case where there was constantly that struggle to help everyone understand what the data means, how can you use the data to make decisions. So my general drive across the office was data literacy. We don't necessarily want you to rely on us to interpret the data. We want you to be able to interpret what you see on the dashboard by yourself. You know what it means to you. So whenever you're coming back to us with any questions, you're actually coming based on the fact that you have looked and you understand something. We wanted people to be able to understand patterns. We wanted them to see how those patterns could translate to better business outcomes. We didn't just want it to look like, you're just working on, another enabling or another department, but we are crucial to sales in this organization. And so it was bringing all of that together and understanding the science behind the analytics. I think gave me that stronger conviction to be able to talk about the importance of data within the organization. I can say that we really transformed data analytics department in the 3 years that I worked in my current role.
Wow. And I think that's really testament to the transformative power of data analytics when it's actually done right. And I think it's also very, very encouraging to note that the role wasn't there when you went for the master's. More like you were on a growth journey, and then your growth journey just merged together with when the opportunity came, and then it's a sort of like expanded your relevance and your impact in organization. So I think that's really, really profound. So let's now even talk about your current role. Okay, you're an associate director of innovation and associate director and innovation and AI lead. What does that actually mean on a day-to-day? What are the biggest challenges that you're trying to solve? Because you've seen that it's morphed from the BI part now, associate director, because director is like in our local balance here on our guard there now. What are the biggest challenges that you try to solve on a day-to-day in your current role now?
Okay. So first, about my role, it's I can define it as a mix of strategy, enablement, and cultural transformation. Because it's AI and innovation. So I lead initiatives on AI across the business. We would build or develop frameworks, we build training programs and the governance models to ensure that the teams understand how AI is an enabler and can apply it responsibly. I think the biggest part of the role is change management. Helping people to see that AI would amplify their impact and it's not a threat to you.
It's not going to take their jobs.
Yeah, it will take your job. And how is it really supporting? And you're dealing with people across different generations, no shades to any generation, but you're dealing with different kind of people who have worked a certain way for a certain length of time, and you want them to think differently. So change management, stakeholder engagement are probably part of the biggest skills I've had to pull on to help me succeed.
Honestly, hearing that, and it's important that to also stress, because in this day and age, everybody's really focused on the technical skills, the data science, the coding, but you went from being proficient in Power BI to doing a master's and getting an AI role, and now you're talking about change management. So it's so clear that you are using the knowledge you have to now drive change with a different set of skills, really. All right. And
Yeah.
but can you even talk about even how did you even get better at those soft skills? Because change management, transformation, understanding the people and the landscape, those are totally different set of skills that you need to survive and everything. But I think it's important for our listeners to also hear that, okay, it's not just the hard part of the skills, the coding, the AI and everything. Or already now, from your own example or your own experience, you've had to like take that in your back pocket, but still add another set of skills in the other pocket and then move forward. Maybe you can just talk a bit about that.
I think it's important to say that not every skill, every experience we have is important. There were quite some transferable skills from my role on the field and in marketing. One important one is the power of storytelling.
Wow.
So I'm talking to same kind of skill if I was talking to a doctor about a vaccine I wanted him to know about. It's probably the same kind of skill when I'm talking to these big professionals in my office and saying, this is what we need to do. Oftentimes it's like wearing the shoes of that person and thinking, what kind of things would they be thinking about? But that's really what storytelling is. What's the value in it for them? What is in it for them? How do you move them change their behavior from point A to point B? And also prepare for the tough times, when you have to go back again and again. Well, I think that's one very important skill that has supported me in my current role today, being able to tell a good story. Even when I moved over here to the UK, I could tell the people on the field that I have been where you're at. And I tell them that I built these dashboards because I didn't have it while I was on the field. And I kept thinking, what's that one thing that I wish I had while I was on the field or that could have helped me in my role? And that's why I've built this. I think that in itself brought down barriers, brought down any walls that people had in their heads to listen to. Look at this person knows what she's doing. So
nice.
It's important that we don't discard previous experience. Think about what are those things that you've done before that would help you where you're at or where you're going.
Interesting. Coincidentally, at the DataMind, we launched a storytelling course. We're actually running the first cohort currently. It's just about, this will be the 4th week of that particular storytelling course. Because as we were just talking, I was just thinking about a couple of the modules that spoke about crafting a narrative. And there's another module that spoke on understanding your audience. And it's people need to learn about these things. It's so critical to their success because the example you gave now around understanding the audience and then being able to take them on a journey of, I've been where you are, understand this. So that way, by the time you introduce data that they need, then they're able to take it on that transformative journey. Thank you so much for sharing that. All right. So now moving on, beyond your work in corporate, you're also a board member of the British Healthcare Business Intelligence Association. Just calling that alone just like a very, very big role. Okay, what motivated you to take on that responsibility to help shape the industry in the UK?
It was 2 parts. One part was selfish. And the other part was the other part was the drive for innovation. So on the selfish part, I had recently moved to the UK and I knew that I didn't have as much network as I did where I was coming from. And it was a new company, new environment. And I knew I didn't have that kind of network. But I attended a meeting with the PHBIA, and the chair of the PHBIA walked up to me to say he valued my contribution at that meeting. I would like him to join the board. So it sounded like an opportunity to meet more people, understand the pharma industry. It sounded like the fastest way to understand the UK pharma industry if I sat in at a decision-making table. I knew it would stretch me but I knew I would learn quicker than trying to read up on something. And so that's the selfish part. But on the other end as well, the board was heavy on, not very heavy on analytics, I'll put it that way. They were heavier on things like market research. And so I was happy to come in there and be the voice of analytics and now loads of AI as well. And so it's really about shaping the future of healthcare insights. It's about us thinking, what's the role of insights analytics in the pharma industry? Our role is continually increasing. It's well beyond just thinking of a contractor that you want to do something. We are crucial to making decisions now. And so how do we help shape that role? How do we help shape things like the ethics and the legal standards for data use in the pharma industry? Because the industry is a very, very regulated one as well. So those were the things that drove me, and it's been very rewarding sitting with them. It's been rewarding listening to other people, very experienced people, some people who are new to the board as well. It's been really, really rewarding listening to them and learning and contributing as well.
Fantastic. I think you clearly emphasized the importance of having a good network and just staying abreast of what is happening in your industry. You're definitely spot on in saying that our need as analytics professionals, it's still going to, and hearing you say that from the UK, I'm in Lagos, Nigeria here now, and I see it growing. And even everywhere that I've been to across even the world, where I've had the opportunity to either speak or attend events, you just see that it's like a graph that's keep on increasing. And I don't think it's going to reduce anytime soon. I think there's just so many opportunities for us to keep on learning the lessons, syncing with the network, and then just taking it from there. Okay. Now, I want you to probably give a couple of advice for some aspiring professionals. Many of our listeners today are either starting their data careers, or like you did, they're contemplating a major career pivot into this field. At the DataMind-Mindset, one thing that the way we started in itself was to help these same career professionals even find the best course in terms of their careers. And you started in your intro, you spoke about one of the things that is really, really exciting for you now is also mentoring these young people. So based on your journey, even from using Power BI in analytics to moving to AI, what's the single most important piece of advice that you would give these professionals that are listening to you today?
I probably use this word a lot today, but I'll say start with curiosity and not fear. You don't have to know everything. Just be willing to learn, be willing to unlearn, be willing to relearn. I think it's about connecting the dots from what I know or what I have and what I want to have, what I do and what I want to do. Let's think about how we want to connect those dots, because every experience is transferable. You just need to understand the value. But if you're curious and you're not afraid to fail, you would try something. You could fail, but you do it again. Building dashboards has taught me patience. So you can fail, but you try again and you get it right.
Start with curiosity and not with fear. Words on marble from Adesola. Okay. So if you want to look forward to honestly, these days, I don't want to even look forward to 10 years. I think 10 years is too far with the kind of transformation that we're having now. So I'm going to rephrase this question myself. Looking forward to 5 years, okay? And it's me, I feel it's too long, all right? What's that one application of AI in healthcare that you believe will fundamentally change the patient experience for the better?
It's very tough to answer this kind of AI questions, because it may happen tomorrow or it's probably already happening in some remote.
Maybe let's not even look at the 5 years and just say, okay, what significant change here do you think will happen very, very soon? Maybe the next who knows, months, because it's frightening.
It is.
The times are just getting so shorter before you need something new just happens. And we're all playing keep up. I don't want to say catch up. We're keeping up.
Yeah, you're right. I think one thing I would love to see, it's probably happening, but I'd love to see more of it, is that AI-enabled early diagnosis and personalized treatment. So, I mean, let's think about models that can help identify disease risks long before the symptoms even appear. And then patients have tailored therapies. I think we are either close or at the early stages of that. So I think that will be transformative to our industry.
Okay, fantastic. All right. Okay. Also, as AI becomes more integrated into healthcare, there's a lot of discussion around the human element. How do we ensure that as we human beings, as we become more data driven, that we don't lose the essential qualities of empathy and human connection? I think I saw a very, very interesting video. I'm trying to remember. It was like the person was at the bedside and there was there was a robot, obviously with AI, and the robot was trying to tell you to take the drug or something, and maybe the robot was trying to force either an injection on the patient or anything. And I think they're trying to paint the picture that, very soon even AI is going to replace doctors and nurses and everything. But as AI becomes more integrated into healthcare, and it's not just happening in healthcare. I think recently I saw that OpenAI, they were hiring, this is even in the finance, me, I'm in finance.
Mm-hmm.
They hired more like finance analysts or something those guys were doing something that would eliminate some regular work that finance people were doing. And there's a lot, but if you look at it now into healthcare, how do we ensure that as human beings, that even as we become more data and AI driven, we don't lose the essential qualities? Because you said something in the course of this conversation. You talked about even looking at the patient beyond the numbers, more like if you see that's a human being, that's somebody that is probably going through a particular. How do we ensure that we don't lose the essential qualities of empathy and human connection in medicine and in healthcare?
I think that statement you made just now is just it. We need to always remember that behind that data set is a human story. I think that's what would set apart a business professional or a BI professional in the pharma industry from anyone else. Behind every data set is a human story. We need to think that AI is there to augment and not replace. And there must always be a human connection with everything that we're doing. I think the best innovation in healthcare is one that incorporates the human connection and the efficiency of AI. I think that's the combination that we need.
Interesting, nice. Even me, I won't lie. I'm really, and that's why it's always good to hear from people doing things with AI in various domains, more like the empathetic part. So you're not just analyzing data sets of patients. There's a human story there, and that I think that can only make us, for people like you in healthcare, it's just going to make you better overall professionals. Okay, all right. Your story is one of profound reinvention, okay, and of being able to rise, excel, and lead no matter where you start is central to your own profile. Okay, what does the idea of reinvention mean to you personally, and how do you continue to cultivate it in your life and career?
I read this somewhere, so I'm just going to quote.
Okay.
It says, reinvention is the courage to rewrite your story. No matter your starting point. It's just, and I'm always prepared to rewrite my story, actually. I don't know if I'll be here in doing AI and analytics in a couple of years, but I'm that open to learning what needs to be learned. And I think it's really about having that culture of continuous learning and purpose. What's new today that I want to pick up that would be helpful to what I currently do, or that may be helpful. It's about just not being stagnant. So just back to that phrase, the courage to rewrite your story.
No.
I recall I was in this meeting, a really inspiring meeting, and the man ended up by saying, I have a book to recommend to you. And he said, do you want to write down the name of the book? Yes. And he says the book is an empty book. And
Wow.
you choose to write your story and you determine if it is worth reading by your children.
Wow.
It's
Wow.
yeah, it's just a learning that our careers they're not linear. It's not like you move from associate to super associate and you
Which
know
is which is which is where a lot of which is where a lot of us used to think, and a lot of people used
yeah.
to think now. Yeah.
Then we need to think about our careers like chapters and you
Mm,
decide how the next chapter reads. What's the next chapter? How do I want it to read? And then work towards it. It and it's your career. It's not our career. It's not everyone's
mm.
career, you know. So yeah, that's really how I'd like to put it. Our career is a chapter. It's in chapters. It's not linear. It's not. Yeah.
Fantastic, fantastic, Adesola. Fantastic, fantastic. All right. I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your incredible journey and insights with us today. It's been really, really, truly inspiring. I think for me personally, I've learned I've learned quite a lot in terms of the perspective and the mindset. I'm using that word again. So this is the data mind mindset. It's a mindset thing, really. The mindset of why we do some of the things we do, even from analytics and data AI professionals, and I'm sure that our listeners today would have picked a lot of lessons from your incredible journey, and I hope they are all leaving with key takeaways. Quite, you've dropped a lot of nuggets. You've dropped a lot of nuggets today, and the power of marrying deep domain expertise with technical skill, and even the critical importance of responsible and ethical innovation, and inspiring through that it's never too late to reinvent your career and make a profound impact. And we have to just be continuous. All right. Thank you so much. Any final words? Any final words before I just say before we just wrap up today? Any final words? Any final thoughts from you?
I think a lot has been said. So I want to say thank you for bringing me here. Sometimes hearing myself tell my story reminds me that there's lots more to do, lots to learn. There's a purpose that needs to be achieved. And so I'd just like to remind everyone to stay curious.
Mm.
Don't, there's a phrase that says you are not a tree, so move. So just keep moving. And sometimes you don't know how what you're experiencing at the moment would translate into something that you desire in future. But as long as you maintain the culture of continuous learning and self-improvement, you'd find that all of the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle will add up. They will.
Fantastic. Well said. Thank you so much, Adesola. And thank you everyone for tuning into Data and AI Conversations with the Data Mind Mindset. Till next time when we bring in an episode, have a wonderful rest of the year. And like Adesola said, stay curious. Thank you and bye-bye.